Hi folks, welcome to my Bit Retro Journal. Today I'm doing another episode for Macintosh, celebrating all things Macintosh in the month of March. I got my Mac set up. What I want to do today is, when I did my Amiga emulator video, some folks were asking about, hey, how did I end up creating the 68K version of the emulator? So if I go under New Stuff, under emulators, Mac UAE, I created the 68K version and sort of said that it was pretty easy to create. And so folks were kind of asking, well, how'd you do that? And what I did is I used a command shell. So I wanted to sort of share that command shell with you today. When I did my GUI, Battle of the GUI video, some folks said, well, a good graphical user interface doesn't actually need a command shell. And I actually disagree. I think a good graphical user interface can use a command shell. And I wrote one. So that's what this is, CL. If I open it up, it gives me a console window similar to what you might get on an Amiga, the shell. And this was sort of modeled after the Amiga shell. So one thing I can do is, again, if I look at this, you'll see that this is 524K in size, but the Mac UAE 0.6.0 actually comes with this, which is twice the size. And again, this has both a data and a resource fork, and I can demonstrate this by carefully moving up here and just going in here and just doing a CD. We're going to go to hard disk, but capitalization doesn't matter. Colon. And then, let's see, I think it's emulators. Oh no, I think it's New Stuff first, so CD. And then it's emulators, I believe. Yep. And you can string these together if you know the full path name. And using spaces, no different from Unix, you have to put it in quotes. And then we have Mac UAE. And then you have two versions, so CD UAE 0.6.0. And here you have all the files that are in there. By the way, I have the flag. I'm going to turn this flag off, which is the interactive flag, and I'll show you what the difference is. When I'm copying, if I have the interactive flag on it, it asks you if you want to do this. So I'll just be really careful not to delete anything. So I did a directory listing. I can make this slightly bigger. And this time, I can do a directory listing and give it a long listing. Yeah, you can see this is the stuff that's in here. This is all this stuff. And you can see that UAE FAT is 1122 and UAE 68K is only 520. Now I can actually do a listing of only the resource fork. I do a -RL, resource long, and you'll see now that UAE 64 and UAE FAT are both 525K because I'm not listing any of the data forks, and all the data forks of these files, all the ADF files now are all 0. Now, if I want to just look at the data fork, -DL, you'll see now that all the data forks have information in it, and the FAT has 598K, and UAE 68K has 0 in there. So again, I can look at the various parts. And again, there's 3 parts to it, and so what I can do is I can copy the resource and the attribute. Now I use K for attribute for kind because I also have the dash. So these flags are sort of global for all the commands. I tried to keep it simple. So the -A flag is for all, and so I didn't want to use it for attribute. So I can copy dash. So if you want to copy the full file, default is RK and the resource data and kind. Here I'm going to copy resource and kind, and I'm going to copy UAE 0.6.0 FAT, and we'll just copy it to temp and call it 68K. And hit OK. And did the copy, and you'll notice in the actual interface now, I actually have an executable, and this is actually again the same size as the other one. That's all I did, and now you can see that it is 525K. In fact, it's the same executable. If I want to run this, I can just run it. Oh, it's going to say not enough memory. Yeah, because I don't have virtual memory turned on. But this is no different from running this one. We'll say the same thing. So again, it's just a workable executable, and I can delete it. And it'll disappear. Oh, I misspelled it. Yeah, I didn't use remove, or erase. I used delete because it's, again, as I said, I actually modeled this after the Sinclair QL's interface. There we go. And now it's deleted. See, it's gone. And yeah, so that's one way that I was just easily able to, with a single command, I was able to just create my new 68K version only. So this was modeled after, well, again, I prototyped this on the QL first. You know, this has functions like date. It can do a directory listing. I think you can do who, which asks what. I think it's not who, but what. Sorry. Shows you what jobs are running. What else can you do? And then of course, you have a programming language. Yeah, let's do that. I think it's Control C quits it. You can list and edit this stuff. You can actually, oops, do this all in one line if you want. Oops. So here I don't need 20, so I can just put 20 in. I'll delete the line. I can list my program again. You can see it's just a single line program now. It's not quite right. This will give it a syntax error. Yeah. I need a colon. Now there's a colon. And now it runs. So again, pretty clear. So that, again, this sort of mimics the super basic on the Sinclair QL, mixed a little bit with the ZX81 basic, primarily the basics that I grew up on. Let me show you, I have the prototype. Let me show you the prototype. So again, I wrote this originally on the Let's run it from there. If you do, you have the date function. Yep. I'm just checking to make sure that you can. So the dir command was not implemented. Well, it just gives a fake dir. I mean, you can't the cd. There's no cd. It just says there's a cd command. There's no delete. It just says that there's a delete command. Oh, you got to give it an argument. And it just says it's parsed out correctly. You can say copy A to B. Yeah, and then do a clear screen and a date. And the same program will work on here. I believe the edit function works. Oh, I did not do the edit function here. Oh, no, I think it does. Yeah, the edit. Oh, no, it won't do the edit. It'll just show you that that's the line it grabbed, but I never implemented it here, so I'd have to retype the whole line. But the program works, just like it did here. And now I forget what So, yeah, so the same program prototyped on the QL originally, and then ported to the Macintosh. So you flip this back up. The thing I just demonstrated with regard to the program that I turned the FAT file into just a 68K is kind of unique, but I'll give you a perfect example of a reasonable occurrence. So let's go. I've been working on trying to compile Mac UAE, and it turns out I don't have the source for this, but I have the source for 050, which is a little more primitive. And I've been looking through this. So let's say I decide that I want to move all this source, which is a bunch of CPU files, and I could easily drag them over here. Boom. But now, and I could, I think it's, right, I could reshuffle this pretty quickly. And, but now, if I want to move all those CPU files back on there, I'm going to have to, or certainly they're sort of in order, but I guess what I should have done is move them about a little bit, because yeah, so if I move some of them over here, move some of these things over here, move some of them over here, some over here, over here. So again, just because had I just done a cleanup, not cleanup by name, and again, this is a contrived example, but if I just do a cleanup window, you know, they all sort of find a home for themselves to, you know, fill in the gaps, and you have them sort of all spread out. Now you could try to select them all using, I think it's the Shift key, and find all the CPU files. Because let's say you want to move them back to CPU source. Well, or in this case, let's see where we are. Right, so we want to go up one. And then do a directory listing on here. And you can see there's just a long list of files. But here what I can do is I can just say rename CPU star.c to CPU sources, which was the original directory. Voila, there you go. And they're all gone. In fact, they've been moved back where they originated from, and now I can easily do a cleanup by name, cleanup by name, shrink this window a little bit. Yeah, by name. Yeah. And so I kind of have back what I started with. I was able to drag all these CPU files that started with CPU and ended in .c, and using wildcarding. So I think it's the wildcard mechanism that you sort of are missing with regard to not having command shell. So I think that's very useful. And in fact, just to double down on this, the original under new stuff, see all this, came with some interesting scripts that, so let me quit this. And it's going to ask because I have a basic set. No, I don't want to save it. Now, if I could do a depth first, and yeah, so I've got a few things. So depth first file base. I think I actually used this when I was copying things over. And what this does is it basically just goes the length of the disk and just goes through and lists all the files that it excludes directories. So this lists all the files that are on the disk. And I did that because I needed to, yeah, and if you do, you get to see the name of the file, its full directory path. So Macintosh uses a colon instead of forward or backward slash. And so that's how you do full path directory names. Hard disk, copied, dissertation, committee miss. This is actually somebody's laptop that I bought, and I never got rid of the original information, which I still need to get rid of. You can create aliases. Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, so here I've created a whole bunch of aliases. So I have RM now for delete. I can say echo ABC and it'll echo it out. I can do an ls -l, and now it does a directory listing. So again, you can literally create these very in-depth aliases, and here you can see if I do this the whole way, you have dir, copy, rename. Again, they're capitalized, but it's not case sensitive. So the capitalization is just how it prints it out. You've got jobs, which is what, log out, df gives you ostat.a, cat is a, here you can start seeing that I can stream together on one line some basic code, which, and there's piping that's supported. So I can route stuff from a file to a variable, etc. There's the more command is implemented as a pretty complex. So so this is the parameter that you give more, and it uses the file name and pipes it to an internal string, and then it runs through that, showing it, looking for a new line, etc. So yeah, you can literally. So if I do that, so let me do directory listing. So if I do a more on Unix, and let's do it as smaller. You'll see that it stops, it return, it continues. So that's what the alias commands can do. And I forget what else I wrote in here. So the basic commands start becoming very powerful. Cat, yeah. So again, you can do stuff like copy alias .bas and pipe it or route it into a variable $1, and then you can print $1. Again, it uses the basic naming convention. Yeah, and that's what's in my variable. So you could and you could do the same thing in writing stuff out to a file. So I can then do a copy new file .bas and pipe out $8. And it's created a new file. It doesn't have the, it doesn't give the file type. But if I wanted to give the file type, so I could easily do that as well. I just do this with a command. I would then in here just say copy -k alias bas to new file. Copy alias bas. Yes, I do. Let me try one more thing. Copy. I forget what the O flag is. Do you have to then do overwrite maybe? Unix.bas. I've not used this for a long time. That certainly did not give an error, but now I'm wondering if, oh yeah, so there it goes. It did change it. So I had to do use the override option in the on the command shell. You know, because the file already existed, and I was copying a branch of the file into it. Right here. So they should be the same size. Get info, 74 bytes. Get info, 74 bytes. Yeah, and so you have all sorts of, you have a calendar program, and I forget how slow this is, but basically you give it a year, 2023, and it'll just, it's computing and building the calendar basically that you can then print out if you wanted to. This has the option of printing something out to the screen. But yeah, so you could use BASIC, and again, I used the basis of this BASIC to create my ZX emulator for the QL on ZX Simulator. If you go to this website, zxsimulator.orgfree.com, you can see it. And yeah, I basically had to dumb down the BASIC and add graphic stuff to it. So the BASIC is actually a pretty powerful, full-featured BASIC. Kind of mimics the QL Super Basic without the graphics in it, because it was really seen more as a scripting language. But yeah, and so you can obviously quit from the command line. You can shut the machine down from the command line. There's all sorts of cool things you can do. You can find words. You can wipe your disk. Xcopy, app launcher, encrypt, a little encryption program, where you can decide that, hey, I want to encode, enter password 12345. Text file is going to be new file .bas. Starting encoding run, and we have a new file, which is, but I could open it. What I could do is I can just go under get info. I have snitch, which is nice, so I change this to teach text, TT text, becomes that, and then you can open it up and you can see that it's an encrypted jumble. All right, in any case, yeah, so having a shell does not make your graphical user interface bad. It actually improves it, it enhances it. And I wrote mine based on the QL's syntax with its BASIC as a scripting language, no graphics, so that you could yeah, automate your Mac. And this came out in '92 before AppleScript was out, and so yeah, got good reviews. And it's not a Macintosh Garden, but if somebody wants it to do some automation, just let me know and I'll send it to you. It's not very big. Where is it? Use stuff. CL disk. Let's delete that. We'll put it on the desktop. It's pretty robustly small. You can run multiple versions of it if you want. Yeah, 670K. So nice and small, tight code. Runs pretty fast. So yeah, that's called my command line interface for the Macintosh. So kind of thing. One of the first things I wrote. I prototyped it originally in the QL. Okay, I'm going to end here. Thanks for joining me, and happy Macintosh, and I'll see you next time.